very funny.
Well, it's really intelligently written comedy about a bunch of morons.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I think, what gets me is that you'd have to be so much smarter. And I mean, from what I'm hearing, like one of the actors whose character is drunk all the time, like all the time.
He's the one that's always carrying a glass of like whiskey on the rocks, right?
No, that guy, surprisingly enough, is probably one of the most sober. No, he's like the trailer park manager guy, but apparently he's like a classically trained Shakespearean actor, and he plays like the trailer park drunk. You know, it's really great. Like you'd have to be so much smarter than these people to write them as moronically as they are in the show. So it's actually very funny. And as far as movies go, I think there's probably 4 worth mentioning. One is an Indonesian movie called The Queen of Black Magic. I saw it on Shudder.
Okay.
It's a basic ghost story, but it's got some truly disturbing scenes in it. Like, not just scenes that are like disturbing because, you know, they're gory or whatever. I mean, they're like truly, they're violent, but they're disturbingly violent. I mean, it's one thing if you can catch the notice of, you know, because after a while, you know, you write horror, you become almost like jaded, you know. It's like, oh yeah, there's another popping eyeball, you know, there's another, you know, intestines falling out. But the way they do it in this movie, the way they do the violence in this movie, it's unsettling. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed a Korean movie I watched recently called, I can't remember if it's The Forgotten or just Forgotten, but I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime. And that was really good. It was a thriller, and it's a complicated, like, horror thriller kind of. It's a complicated plot, but it's worth it. It's worth it to hang in there till the end. On the cuter side, we watched a movie that was recommended to us by Eddie Coulter called Love and Monsters. And it's like an action comedy with giant monsters in it.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like a kid trying to get to find his girlfriend. There's like a kind of like a kaiju invasion going on like that.
Yeah. It's like every cold-blooded animal on the planet mutated. So it's like giant frogs and giant bugs, giant snakes and fish and crabs, and it's just really cute. It's just really cute. It's like really well done.
It's a Guy Smith novel, only played as a rom-com.
Yeah, exactly. It's adorable. It's absolutely adorable. And then there was an independent. Like I said, we saw Synchronic. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I got to check it out.
And then I watched this movie called The Headhunter, and it's also on Shudder. It's a super low budget. I want to say they made the movie for like $30,000, and it's literally like one actor who carries this whole movie. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his last name right, but it's like Chris Rychek, something like that, and he's really good. It's a sort of a grimdark kind of movie, I guess you call it. It's like a fantasy horror, you know? It's about this barbarian who's avenging the death of his daughter.
You know what? I saw like an ad for that, and I'm like, do I want to check out this barbarian movie?
It's low budget, and I wish that they had done more actual battles with monsters earlier in the movie. But that's my only gripe. Otherwise, I think it's actually really well done, especially for the budget.
Right on. All right, so I'll have to check all of those out.
Yeah, it's some great stuff. And, you know, if I was going to recommend a cosmic horror movie that is not usually on a lot of lists, but to me is a really well done cosmic horror movie, I'd say The Yellow Brick Road.
The Yellow Brick Road. I've not even heard of it.
I think currently it's on Netflix. I get confused after a while with which ones are on Netflix.
There's so many. You know what? That's the thing is I'll put links on the notes so people can find all the stuff that we suggested through the episode. And that's the other thing is if you do a search for a film, you know, and it'll get, you know, Google will give you options for where you can find it streaming. I mean, it's not difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's one of the big ones. It's either Netflix or Amazon Prime. It's one of them, and it's actually, I don't think it gets enough. It doesn't get a lot of credit because I don't think most people know it exists. But to me, it's actually a really good cosmic horror movie that does a lot with sound. Sound is a major, you know, factor in the storyline, and it's really pretty cool. It's got, like I said, it's got like one or two scenes that are just like very suddenly shocking. You know, it's very well done, I think.
All right, I'll have to check that out. Oh, you know, I want to just, you know, before we go, and thank you so much once again for joining me, Mary. This was absolutely a blast.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
I absolutely had, it was wonderful, an honor, and I would love to have you on, you know, back again when you could fit us into your schedule. But I wanted to ask you about, did you see They Remain? Now, and that's based on a novel by Laird, isn't it? Or is that Richard Kadrey? It's one of the folks that I know from the horror scene.
They Remain?
They Remain, it was called. It had Chidi from The Good Place.
No, I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's it's based on 30 by Laird Barron.
Oh, okay.
It is based on a Laird Barron story, and I heard they kind of really didn't do, you know, as good a job with the adapt as they could, but it's really atmospheric. It's about two people who are researching this patch of land where there was a mass sacrifice, and they just start getting affected by whatever happened there.
Oh, this does sound like something I would like.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you should read Laird's story first and then see the film. I mean, I genuinely enjoyed the film, but I think they tried to go a little too ambiguous with it, you know?
Yeah. See, I think that's the problem. The problem that people run into anytime they're adapting cosmic horror, in my opinion, is that they're too self-conscious about it, and they don't really understand that they don't understand what makes cosmic horror scary. You know, they're like emphasizing the wrong elements sometimes, or they're not emphasizing something enough.
You know, things can remain mysterious if you give people a little something, and we see that like towards the end of Lovecraft's career, he got away from being like, it was an indescribable mass and the guy went crazy.
Right.
You know, he started really giving you good descriptions of what was going on and the action was going on. And then the guy would start rambling off, you know, Cthulhu Ftagan, whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I think the adaptations don't always work well because, for one thing, I think a modern audience they're not just going to accept like, oh, it was beyond description. It's like, you know, all right, well, you're a writer, try, you know?
Exactly.
And also, you know, I think that we need more maybe modern or realistic portrayals of how people would actually react to this kind of, and if it's insanity, fine, you know, that's fine. But I think we don't really collapse into gibbering messes over. I mean, a lot of times when something really traumatic or unexplainable happens, believe it or not, people ignore it. They just shut it out of their mind.
Sure.
You know, I mean, and maybe they're not really ignoring it deep down, but that's how it's perceived, you know, and I guess it's the psychology. If cosmic horror doesn't work in a movie, it's because the psychology that makes cosmic horror work isn't being approached the right way.
Well, you know, did you see Underwater?
Yes.
No, I mean, I liked Underwater. Good action movie, good monster movie, and then the obvious reveal at the end, if folks are listening to this show, obviously, we talk about everything with spoilers.
Right.
If you want to stop and not listen to the show, you can do that, But if you've returned now after watching Underwater, if you're going to use Cthulhu as a bad guy, let me actually see him.
Yes.
Like, I could tell it's a big octopus kind of headed thing, and maybe there are bat wings, but there have been so many great, awesome depictions of what Cthulhu and the other monstrosities from Lovecraft look like by so many brilliant artists over the years.
Right.
I mean, from Wayne Barlow to Bernie Wrightson.
Right.
And did you like how I did that? WB, BW, I like that.
Very nice.
And it's like, how can you just and it's not a matter of, we're filming underwater. It's difficult to show you the thing. It's computer generated. Let me see him.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see a mountain that actually walks.
Right. And it can be done. I've seen, probably movies with the same budget who have shown, at least for several seconds, long enough to get a good eyeful of these ginormous monsters. Like, I can't think of the movie offhand now. It was something I saw fairly recently, and it did have a giant monster toward the end. Like, you see the thing that is affecting everybody. This and it's the size of, like, I don't know, a small town. And there are storms running through it. And it was so beautifully and brilliantly done. And you only see it maybe for like 10 seconds, but that's enough, If that's all you can afford on special effects for the monster, that's fine, because at least we get to see it. But it doesn't work anymore unless the whole point of the movie is that this person doesn't know what's going on and isn't sure if things are real or not. And even then, hallucinations can be very powerful. They can be very strong things. So I think that modern cosmic horror has to take it a step past, this sort of revelation that there's, this indescribable, insurmountable force. I mean, we've got to see the force. We've got to face it head on, because that's what more modern audiences expect. And the horror's got to be more than just that it exists. And, a lot of times the horror is how we react to it, or what it means, whether we defeat it or not, what it means about life or the state of humanity, whether we win or not,
Yeah, well, I've said this before, and I'll say it probably till the day I die. I said, it doesn't matter what genre you are telling a story in, whether it is Western, whether it is samurai film, whether it's medieval adventure, whether it's Bollywood, whether it's cyberpunk, as long as you're, or cosmic horror, as long as you're telling a good story of the human condition, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
That's why I eschew literary writers and the concept of literature. Particularly as a comic book fan. Because there's been so many times when Jared and I have been talking about Standing Attic, and we're like, as comic book creators, and people will be like, well, this is a graphic novel. And I'll be like, well, technically it's a graphic novel. And the definition of graphic novel is, technically it's a graphic memoir. And then I'll give them Will Eisner's definition of what it is.
Right.
Because I like to sound like a snob to people who think that they're intellectually superior to me, and they're not. Says the guy who barely got out of high school and went to a 2-year college for 9 years. I got a lot of stage time at Nassau Community College, though. I did 13 main stage productions. So, but yeah, like I said, as long as you're telling a good story about the human